Hey everybody, it's Baltimore Lauren,
And
and we're at
Great Lakes Comic Con for another episode of Barzinga.
we've had a great time this weekend.
A wonderful time.
The show is amazing.
It is.
I've never been here before.
You'll be back.
I'll be back next year. Yeah. So I'm drinking.
What are we drinking, Lauren?
I think this is 2 Hearts Pale Ale.
Okay, I've got 14 hams
You're almost done. That doesn't count.
and hopscotch
That counts a little more.
and Sunday. So I'm triple fisting on a Saturday, a Sunday, a hopscotch, and 14 hams because, well, we can.
That's exactly right. We're on working vacation.
Yes. So,
Oh,
ding, don't break the glass. So, I've been coming to the show for the last 4 or 5 years. I've seen the show grow tremendously every year. This year we have a couple really amazing guests at Great Lakes Comic Con. We've got Jim Shooter and Alex Suviak. I hope I pronounced that correctly.
Suviak.
Suviak.
we were wrong.
Suviak. So we're gonna flip this around. And what are we drinking, Alex?
I am drinking iced tea, not a Long Island iced tea, just straight iced tea with lemon and Splenda.
And I'm making up for him a little bit with this Coca-Cola.
Is that a Mexican Coke?
I'm not sure, and I don't care.
Wait, is it Coke or Pop?
That's right.
Depends
Soda.
on where you are.
Oh, okay.
That's right.
So
All right. So
I'm gonna drink.
you're
We have
gonna
nothing
drink.
to say. We got nothing.
We got nothing. All right. So I'm gonna quickly step over the side.
Here we go.
There we go. Okay.
Here comes the talent.
We're Jim and Alan. They're drinking iced tea.
Yeah.
And pop. Coca-Cola looks suspiciously like Stella.
Okay.
So
It's a very pale Coke.
Jim told us a great Bill Sienkiewicz story, but he says he's got a great story about everything.
You bet.
You have a favorite story about Alan?
About Alex?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. That's going to take a while.
I mean, like, how dirty can I get with this?
Oh, absolutely.
Now, I really don't have any, bad and embarrassing stuff about him. He's such a Boy Scout, he has iced tea,
Well, wait a second. Why don't you tell them about the time that you and I, the one and only time we worked together on Star Brand number 3, where you gave me your plot and you told me, listen, it's a long story here, and if you do layouts and you come up with 28 or 29 pages, no problem, bring them in, we'll go through it, and we'll get it down to 22, which is what we need. And I came in the following week having laid out the book in 22 pages without getting to the 29. And when you looked at it, you said, wow, we can take this scene here, which is really important, where he goes to the moon, and I'm going to get 2 more pages, and I'm going to call up the advertising section right now and tell them, look, we're losing 2 pages because we're putting in 2 more pages of story.
I did that?
Yes, you did.
I had too much Coke.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. That sounds good, though.
Oh, yeah,
it makes
it was
me
true.
sound like, I kind of knew what I was doing or something.
Yeah, and I was very happy about reading that
He did
plot.
a great job. It's like, I gave him a lot of plot, and he's a good cinematographer, comics cinematographer, and he was able to fit the whole story in, and well, in the appointed number of pages. So I wasn't going to let that stand. I had to make some trouble.
No, I don't think that was trouble. I thought it was great that we could expand the story and I can get paid for 2 more pages.
There you go. All right.
Yeah. And then what's even better is that on the way home, after I finish turning in the finished pencils, I get home after taking the Long Island Railroad home from New York City, and my wife says, oh, Jim Shooter's office called. I said, well, I just left there. Why would they call? She goes, I don't know, you better call him back. So I called back, and Jim wasn't in the office, but whoever his assistant was at the time said, listen, Jim really liked what you did, and he's giving you this huge raise to make sure that you stay at Marvel Comics. And I said, wow, that is so cool.
I had a lot of Coke.
Oh, man. So then, after I had, I had just gotten to Marvel this was 1986, and I had just worked on a couple of fill-ins and some covers before I got to work with Jim. So I was there for a couple of months, and then, of course, word got out to DC now that not that they fired me, but they didn't have work, and I went across town to Marvel. and I knew John Romita Sr. personally. He said, hey, bring in some work, because if you leave some samples here, we have guys that are constantly late. You can make a living just doing fill-ins. So I said, fine. So within a couple of days, I got a call to do some work at Marvel. So then when DC called me back, they said, we want to make sure that you're working, so we finally have a project for you to do. And this was about 4 weeks later, and I said, I'm really sorry, but I'm working for Marvel now, and I'm working on books, and I can only do one book a month. Oh, but this project would be so great for you. I said, well, what's the project? And they said, well, it was something about Jonah Hex going into the apocalyptic future. And I'm thinking to myself, well, gee, it sounds kind of interesting, but I think I'm going to stick to what I'm doing right now. And I think the book finally did come out for DC, but after 3 months, I guess it folded because nobody was buying it.
So we could have gotten you cheaper, is what you're saying.
Oh, no, not at all. Well, actually, when I first got to Marvel, and Mike Higgins was my editor on Iron Man for that fill-in, he asked me what my rate was at DC, and I told him, and he goes, what? Nobody works for that rate. We're going to give you a range right off the bat. I said, well, gee, thank you very much.
We were doing so well at Marvel at that time, so the books were making a lot of money, so I had a pretty free hand about what to pay. I mean, I had a budget.
Yeah.
I wrote the budget. I had a budget, and I kept it reasonable. But we had a good bit more rate flexibility than DC just because our books were doing so well.
Right.
And so if a guy came over from DC, generally he got a raise, not because we were competing, just because I couldn't pay him as little as they paid him. And the other thing is, because our rates were up, people at DC were getting raises because of us, because they didn't want to lose a guy. So to compete with us, they had to give him a raise. I used to love that. Paul Levis once in an interview talking about Marvel and DC competing, he said the words, "Jim Shooter plays hardball." So one of my guys went out and had a brass plaque made for my door. It said, "Jim Shooter plays hardball." I loved it. It was great. So we played hardball with you then, right?
No, I thought it was good ball. That's all I'm thinking.
Yeah, well, that's I was famous for my hardball negotiating too, because like I said, we were making money, and like a guy like J.R. Jr. would come in at the end of his contract, and he'd want to renegotiate, and he would say, "Oh, I want $3 more a page," and I say, "Jay, I was going to give you 10, but if you want 3."
Done.
Yeah. So anyway, that hardball negotiating.
Yeah.
Take it or leave it. So it was. Anyway, those were pretty good times.
Oh yeah, it was great times. I mean, I stayed at Marvel for about 10 years and just had a good time all along.
And guess what? He was good. He earned it.
So, and I've been drawing Spider-Man now every year for the last 30 years. I started in '87 filling in on Amazing Spider-Man number 292, which has relevance because on the last page of that story, Peter asks Mary Jane if she would marry him, and in the final panel, smiling, she says yes.
Cool.
And actually, that particular story, you had some influence in that story because it had a lot of it was taking place in Pittsburgh. So you provided me with a whole bunch of reference because I think Mark DeMatteis had written the story, and there was that scene with that sort of like that railway car trolley thing that goes off.
It's called the Incline.
There you go. That sounds good. And the Incline was in it, and we had Three Rivers Stadium as he's swinging by, and some areas downtown, some landmarks and everything. And so having the reference, hey, if you can use some really cool spots like that, it made it for a great page. Pages. Yeah.
Awesome.
Good.
Guys, thank you very much for being on Barzinga.
That was amazing. Thank you.
One last question. Do we have a favorite cocktail and a favorite comic?
Favorite cocktail? I guess my favorite cocktail, I don't drink that much, but when I do, I drink Greyhound. A Greyhound is vodka and grapefruit juice, which is not too sweet.
Lauren,
And
forgive me.
It's okay. You can jump in on this one. We're doing one right now.
Let's do it.
Okay, jump on in.
Let me tell the crowd.
What happened?
We got an addition.
What happened?
Paul Soule, who did the voice of Spider-Man in the 1960s comic,
Oh, okay.
promised Lauren an interview.
Okay.
He's going to do
So we're just gonna combine combine y'all together, I guess.
There we go. Why not?
Sure, why not?
You know about Spider-Man, right?
Sort of a little bit.
Okay, a little bit. You know who he is, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
He does.
So anyway, I'm not drinking Greyhounds. I stick to Coke.
I don't necessarily drink, but if I do have one, I like to have vodka on the rocks with a shot of cranberry juice and a couple of limes.
That sounds really good.
There you go.
Lime wedges, not just a couple of limes.
I drink
No, Paul, have
Here.
a seat. Lauren, introduce our next guest.
Hi, I'm Alex. I'm Alex.
Alex,
Nice to meet you.
your very attractive thigh there is sort of in the way.
Oh my!
There we go.
I thought you said you're a very attractive guy and you're in the
You're a
way.
menace
Well,
to
that's what I
Al-
was
you're a menace to navigation,
I was
Alex.
thinking, but it came out the other way.
No problem.
Lauren,
It's nice to meet you.
nice to meet you.
You obviously know Rich.
Yes.
So
Nice to meet you
I'll
again,
let
Paul.
because Rich is in the
I know
scene.
Richie, you're
Yes.
involved, yeah.
Paul,
Mr. Important.
So Paul was Spider-Man in the
the original 1960s animated television show. Paul was the voice of Peter Parker, Spider-Man. Paul is here at the Great Lakes Comic Book Convention, all the way from Canada. Paul, how many is this?
All the way,
All the way
20 feet.
Well, we appreciate that.
That was hard to say because we're on the metric system. So it was about 10 meters. Sorry.
So I know you from Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Yes, thank you.
Can you still do that voice?
From Rudolph as Hermie the Misfit Elf
Yes.
that wanted to be a dentist.
Yes.
It's not so hard to do. By the way, you have lovely bicuspids. I would have a look at those molars if I were you. I can give you an appointment next Tuesday
Okay.
at 5 if you'll come along.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
So how did you enjoy working on Spider-Man, though? Since we have
Well, I'd
Spider-Man.
rather have been a dentist. Spidey came second.
Yeah.
Rudolph was the breakthrough series that brought American producers to Canada, especially to Toronto, where Orson Welles understood possibly the best pool of English-speaking actors in the world existed, with belonging to the British Empire, proximity to American radio and television. We knew how to do both sets of accents. We were well versed in classical theater. And American producers came to Canada because they got this pool of good actors who would work for 5 cents a day. Nearly. We didn't have the residual rules that the U.S. did. Otherwise, these shows would never have been done in
You
Canada.
should have had Jim Shooter working for you. Like,
Well, indeed.
You could have negotiated.
Indeed.
Hardball shooter.
That's right.
so did you read Spider-Man before you?
I was not that big a... But remember, at my age then, in my 30s, early 30s, comic books were... I was more into J.D. Salinger than
Sure.
than comic books. My son, though, grew up with them, and I remember comic books as a kid. But it was not a big literary factor in my life. And remember, I think if you went to Stan Lee and the people of his generation at this time, mid-60s, they would have said, you know, Spider-Man is a teenager with zits and can't get along with girls, and
That was his
What the-
sound bites.
yeah, what kind of a series is this? You're not gonna make it. And nobody knew that it was going to be a show with the legs that it had.
May I ask a question?
Absolutely.
I just want to ask you. All right, did anyone coach you about the kind of character he was and what he might, how he might sound?
No,
No, you just.
no, it was left to us to respond to the script, which is what a good actor does.
Sure.
Respond to the writing. It's the writing.
So that was your clue, the way it was written with
Yeah, and
a
you
snappy pattern.
inferred what it would be like to be a studly superhero and collected, calm, controlled, strong.
There you go.
And remember, he was costumed from head to toe, so you couldn't tell his skin color or anything else.
Perfect.
And if he said he was in charge, he was in charge. And all you had to do was kind of infer that, and the rest came easily. Same with Peter Parker. Gosh, Mr. Jameson, you shouldn't give me hell because I'm just a willing photographer trying to get along. That's easy. But being a roaring muscle man was not easy for me, so it was a little harder.
Yeah, but you got over it apparently. You
I guess.
figured it out. You
I
figured
guess.
it out.
Yeah.
It's worked out well.
Yeah. Well, I told Paul, Spider-Man was the very first animated cartoon I remember seeing as a kid.
Yeah.
And I couldn't wait to get home from school so I could watch Spider-Man. And then
Well,
Speed Racer was
happily,
on
that
after
was it.
Yeah.
Caught on. It connected with people for very good reasons.
Sure.
I think. You know, the idea that a person being marginalized or not accepted, you work a little harder to kind of belong. And Rudolph had a similar type of theme.
Yeah.
Nobody likes to be told they're not welcome or they're different or you don't fit in. Everybody's been kind of made to feel a bit of an outsider in their lives, and I think that was the connection with those two. And gold, pure gold,
Yeah. Agreed.
to make a connection with people.
Very nice. Similar thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Well, Paul, thank you very
a
much.
pleasure.
so much.
Thank you.
All the best. Nice to meet you, Rick.
It was an honor
And
to meet
Laura.
you. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
so much.
Soon again.
Absolutely.
Very nice to
Okay.
meet you too,
And
sir.
you guys, thanks. Pleasure to be part of a really lovely Comic-Con.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks so much.
We're signing off on Barzinga. Thanks for coming. We have no giveaway this
Yeah.
week. We just have the very best episode of Barzinga
Same
ever. So
again, Rich.
Thank you.
Thank you. We love you guys. We'll see you guys soon. Bye.